here in the Gloucestershire countryside, in the Cotswolds actually, one of my favourite places in Britain. The only thing is, I'm about as far from the south coast as you'd likely to be, and I'm wondering what I'm doing here, but my mate Dave Johnson from West Systems has driven me here. So what's going on, Dave?
That is a brilliant question, Tom. I think you've got to see one of our customers, a guy called Dan Lee, who's using all of the latest techniques to produce relatively traditional looking boats and conduct restorations. I think you'll be fascinated.
Good. Well, let's go and get some of it, shall we?
Let's do it. Oh, yeah, but before we go, I've got a surprise for you for later.
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you know.
Right. All right, we'll see what's up.
Hello, Dan. How you doing? Nice to see you. I don't think you've met Tom before.
Nice
Hello, Dan. At last. God, what a place. Look at this. And it's so clean. All right. I brought my sandwich. I hardly like to touch this, Dan, because the finish is so beautiful. I mean, it's absolute. You go on a super yacht and you look at all the fancy woodwork and everything going around the corners, and you wonder how they've done it. But this is that good.
Yeah, well, thank you. There's a good few hours of sanding, filling, fairing, and all sorts of things to get it nice and flat.
Yeah.
But most of my finishes are sort of still done traditionally. So all of this white is rollered and brush painted.
Yes.
And most of my varnish work is the same, actually.
What sort of paint is it?
This is Epifanes. So
Oh, I see.
they're two-part polyurethane paints, which I'm using quite a lot of now because they just speed the process up. They dry quickly, and they're really hard wearing, hold their gloss.
So would you use that as a top coat and perhaps something a bit softer underneath so you can rub it down? Right?
Yeah, normally an epoxy underneath, like an epoxy primer, which is a good sort of protective barrier, but also sands nice and easily.
Yeah. I don't really know much about speedboats, but it looks like the business to me. I've had a look underneath. I can see the way it's constructed, and I can see it's going to ride very nicely. What's the technique for building this? I mean, I can imagine people thinking it's fiberglass, but it's not, is it?
Yeah, a lot of people think that, mainly because of the finish, I suppose, on the outside, and that's part of the reason we wanted to leave some of the planking lines visible on the inside so that you can still see it. So it's a cold moulded boat. So they build a big form, a male form, and then each of the plank laminations are laid up over that in opposing diagonals. Yeah. So this is actually 6 layers of 3mm Kea mahogany veneer, which they lay up, and then they staple the next layer on, and
they're all epoxied, are they now, together?
They would be if you did it now, but because this is a 70s boat, this was done with like a Recursionol sort of glue. Some of them use like a Cascamite.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an original hull?
Yeah, all original, yeah. And it's just a shell, so as you can see, there's no framing in it. No. It's just a transom, and it's completely curved from the keel line right up to the shear line. So the chine is sort of rounded, but then with these spray rails that they put on the outside, they create a bit of a hard chine, which is more desirable for this sort of type of boat. So it's a ski racing boat, a water ski racing boat. Right. So you have a big outboard on the transom and a skier hanging on the back with a big mono ski, and they'd race them, sort of inshore racing really, but in the sea.
Okay, and I mean, how fast would something like this go? I suppose a crass question, really. People always ask that, don't they? But I'm curious because it's a...
Yeah, about 60 miles an hour, this boat.
No!
Yeah.
Imagine falling off your water ski at that.
Yeah, it'd be like hitting concrete, wouldn't it?
Here we are in the middle of the Cotswolds. How did you get into doing this, Dan?
Boats have always been my passion, really, I suppose. Sort of boats and woodworking. So obviously the wooden boats just came together. And it's always been a hobby for me, so I started building boats when I was quite young, about 18, and actually built them on the lawn in my mum's back garden from old plans, and then did another boat, and it was always my sort of hobby, and I always thought, this is what I want to do for a living.
Did you teach yourself? I mean, you say just casual throwaway line. Oh, I built them on the lawn outside my mum's house from old plans. But that's a magnificent thing, isn't it? Yeah, how did you learn how to do that?
Just kind of self-taught, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started with models when I was much younger.
Yeah.
So then when I got to building a full-size boat, I thought, well, it's just the same thing, isn't it?
So there you are on your mum's lawn. So where do you progress from there?
To the patio on my mum's,
Patio?
and then I got a marquee. So for the second build, I got a marquee, so we were out the weather. And then I bought a shipping container, which I had on a farm,
Yeah.
and started building boats in a shipping container.
What did you build in there?
So I built my boat called Missile, which is a 15-foot gentleman's racer, which is my kind of childhood poster boat. That's kind of what I say to people.
Yeah.
That was the only way I was going to be able to have one of those boats, was to build it myself. So
Yeah. And how did you build it? What technique did you use?
it's all sawn frames, and then it's cold moulded over the top, so it looks like a traditional batten and seam sort of planked racer.
And now we're in this magnificent workshop.
Yeah.
When did the big jump take place?
When did that happen? To be honest, the catalyst for that was COVID, actually. So we were running another business here, making shelves. We used to do quite creative bookcases in the shape of trees. So a sort of wall feature and a functional bookcase as well. So we were doing things like that. And then when the COVID stuff happened, I kind of went into panic mode and thought, oh, this is it. Everything's going to go. And started looking at other options. So that's when I thought, well, boats is what I've always wanted to do, so I'm just going to start doing it. So I set up a website and started doing various things like modernising old boat plans, and just sort of putting the word out there. And then gradually a kind of restoration came in, and another bit came in, and the transition just sort of shifted. We did less shelves and more boats, and then here we are.
Brilliant. And well, you've got a magnificent setup here. I mean, I'm looking around at the tools with considerable envy, and there's quite a big investment here.
Yeah.
Did that all happen at once, or did you do it bit by bit?
It was kind of the shelving business really helped to grow that. So over the time of doing that business, that built the workshop and got me all the tools I needed. And the whole time in my mind, I was thinking, oh, you could build boats in here pretty nicely.
Yeah, and you could, couldn't you? And you do.
Yeah, I do now, yeah.
Wow,
Look at this, it's a bit like a cathedral, isn't it, Dan?
it's amazing. This is a really professional setup that Dan's got.
It's a far cry from me with my plastic cups and my little mixing stick, isn't it? But listen, when we were out there looking at that boat that was built a long time ago, I'm curious about the glues that we used then, because I think that must predate epoxy.
Oh yeah.
Well, how was it done? How did those glues come about that moved from ancient glues that they had in the vernacular period, fish glue and all that sort of thing? How did all that move to where we are now very quickly?
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and modern adhesives really are a result of technology after World War II. With aircraft like the Mosquito that relied heavily on adhesives. The advancement of technology brought about adhesives that we can see on the stapler there, like the names that you would know, like Cascamite and Aerolite. That type of adhesive, and epoxy now is the product that's replaced them all because of performance, water resistance, gap filling ability, and health and safety.
So now we have epoxy, and looking at this, I mean, where does this come from? Do you buy this in Mr. Epoxy's shop? Or?
It's a bit of a kind of a brainchild of my own thought process, I suppose. It really came about actually when we were starting to do epoxy work on bigger scales. So we were cold moulding boat hulls, or mixing up large amounts of the 407, the filling fairing compound. And so there'd be one of us mixing and another one dispensing, and you need to keep things moving quite quickly to get your planks in place. And if you're vacuum bagging the bottom of a boat, which is what we did out there, you need to get everything mixed and placed and set up quickly. So this kind of setup really was driven by the need for that. So it's a way that we can mix up batches of epoxy very quickly and get the job moving.
Because the size of the batch is critical, isn't it? If you mix too much, it all get
I mean, you don't want to waste it, obviously, because once it's mixed, it's going to it's going to cure, it's going to go off in the pot before you can get it applied to the surface. So you've got to be fairly good with balancing your volumes. But speed as well. So that's why we've got this kind of.
Did you buy that,
setup.
or did you create that yourself?
Yeah, I bought this. So West System supply this. So it's a variation on the plastic pump sets that you'll be used to, where you've got to sort of do one, and then wait for the pump to return. Whereas with this, you've just got one pump on the handle, and it dispenses the correct ratio of the resin and hardener.
It does both
per
from one
pump.
handle?
Yeah, so you just push that down and you get the correct amount of each.
Can't go wrong.
So yeah, when you're in a bit of a rush and you've got stuff going on in the workshop, you can just come in and 5 pumps of that, and then a little turn of the dispenser.
Where do you get the dispensers from?
It's actually a cereal dispenser.
What, from a hotel?
From it
like
comes
when you
from
go for your breakfast?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You you wouldn't want to eat your cornflakes out of that one now, but
I'm really impressed. This is obviously, I mean, I've guessed what this is. This is a mixer, isn't it?
Your little mixer, yeah. So you just then put your pot up underneath, mix your resin, then you can add your thickening agent, your additives.
Fantastic. And it even goes at a sensible speed. I mean, if I had that, it'd be spinning around at 500 RPM and spray it all over the room.
Yeah, you do want it quite slow, really. And
How do you
actually,
do that, then?
because it's just an electric drill, you just got the trigger control.
Okay.
You can start off slow, so you don't fire all your additive out and mix it. And then when it starts to blend, you've got a bit more power behind it to really get that thickened properly.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Something else that I've seen, I saw this actually as soon as I walked in, I didn't say something, is this guy.
Yeah, my little reference guide for temperature and humidity. It's a good guide to sort of know how things are going to go if you're doing some epoxy and you if I look at that and it's 10 degrees or less, it's kind of like, we need to start putting the heating on, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gives you, because obviously epoxy is largely temperature dependent, so it has quite a big variation on its viscosity and what it's going to do, how quickly it's going to set on you and cure. So yeah, it's something I constantly bear in mind.
And what about the humidity?
Yeah, again, that plays a big part, particularly if you're encapsulating wood. You want to make sure that it's not done in too humid an environment and that the moisture content of the wood is nice and low.
Yeah.
So that, in combination with a moisture meter that I can stick in the timber, is good to have on hand.
This looks suspiciously to me like lofting.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a modern take on the lofting process.
Well, yeah, I'm fascinated by this because it looks so beautiful and so neat. Because to me, lofting has been a mystery, really. I understand how it works, but I have pictures in my mind of old guys with a great big loft floor, walking around with lumps of chalk, not a piece of, and producing what looks like a maze of sections, and it's a complete mystery, and it's a black art. And this is a different world. How does it work?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very much a process that daunts people, lofting. So this is a modernisation on that essentially jumps straight past it. So all of these parts are CNC cut.
Stop. CNC?
CNC. So
what's
that's
that?
Computer numerical control.
Right.
So it's a
computer numerical control. Right, got it. Yeah.
a router, effectively, that's controlled by a computer and told where to go, where to drill, or where to carve in the instance of these letters.
So does it cut the wood as well?
And it cuts the wood parts. Yeah. So all of these outlines are cut by a router.
Right.
To create you all these accurate shapes. So within the plans that we create for this boat, you have outline parts, and that's what a router will want to see. So the machine sees a line, and you tell it to cut on the inside of it or the outside of it, and you end up with a resulting part exactly the right shape.
Okay.
So repeatability and accuracy are massive things for CNC, and that's what really where it comes into its own.
I guess doing it like this, actually, this would be a mystery, wouldn't it? You can actually get the two sides of the boat the same.
Exactly. The first ever symmetrical wood boat. Yeah,
Yeah, so the boat's going to sail as well on one tack as the other.
it should do.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be good, wouldn't it? This CNC, can you do it if you're doing a restoration, you're going to take a boat apart? Can you do it off a hull, or you want to reproduce that hull?
You could do, yeah. So you could then include the technology of 3D scanning, which is where you take physical data and you turn that into something that goes into a computer, and then you can pull your lines off that and then use a machine to cut parts.
And you use some sort of laser scanning device to get the shape?
Yeah. So that it's almost like a sort of camera really that will fire at the surface and take readings for all different measurements and dimensions.
Yeah. So show me how it works.
Okay, so this is what we call a construction board. So this is where you would build your frames.
Yeah.
Again, very similar to the way that you do this on a lofting floor.
Yeah.
But your parts are already cut.
Is the boat upside down at the moment?
Upside down.
From where we're looking?
Yeah, so this is the deck beam.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're working on frame 3, so the parts are labelled up. So we've got 3 deck beam.
Yep.
And then we've got 3 port side. So for every part there are 2 dowel holes through the part, and they correspond to the number that's in this construction board. So you get yourself a little pin, and of course this is all quarter scale, so on the full size boat these are actually 10mm dowels.
Okay.
And much bigger.
But it works just the same, so you can do this at any scale really?
Pretty much, yeah. This is as small as I could go without having to change anything, so I can still show people exactly how it's done.
And you've done this, made this model effectively to help. Are people buying plans or something from you? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we sell the plans for this boat, and we've got various other designs as well, but the idea behind this is to sort of show the way it all works and teach people the principles of it.
Well, it would give you a lot of confidence.
So we've got little location notches that line up between parts, and then as I say, we've got a dowel for each number, so that corresponds to the hole there. So we put the pin in, and that locates your part.
So this is the actual frame that will go into the constructed boat.
Yep.
And the machine cuts it.
It cuts it all, So then your next stage is to put on your strong back legs. So you've got these dowels for a strong back leg.
Is this for building purposes now, the strong back?
Yeah, so this is what helps you to get this then positioned in a setup with the boat.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because it's got to line up top and bottom as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to have that common plane throughout all the frames that means that the boat's straight and good and fair.
So how do you achieve that?
So your strong back leg then goes on and pushes up against those, and then that gives you your line to set the boat up when it comes to putting it on the strong back.
And all the frames have got these, and the trick is to line up all the water lines so they're spot on.
So they're all perfectly positioned.
And how is that achieved?
So that's achieved with a laser line which you fire through the structure of the boat. So you can see the laser that we were just talking about is now
there it is,
shining through the strong back system. So then you use that to position all of these frames within the strong back system, and that gives you each frame at the correct height by moving it up and down the rung.
So this is before you put the springers and hooked it all together, is it?
Yeah, this is when you've just got frames sat there on their own.
And you can move them up and down till you're absolutely satisfied.
Yeah, and you know they're square because you've got a laser both sides, so that helps you to true the frame up, and they're at the correct height, and that should get you a boat that's set up and framed nice and true.
It looks like the sort of thing I could almost cut out with my own jigsaw on the bench, but there's more to it than that, isn't there? Look at it, and look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a CNC cut layers of plywood which form a lamination for this.
I see. Right, so the whole thing is laminated up.
Yeah.
Wow, this is looking pretty good. And I heard the word lamination as well.
Well, you did, and I mean, maybe that's where you come in. I mean, I'm curious as to what grade of epoxy you're going to use and so on for this sort of job.
I'm guessing here, Dan, you would have just used West System 105 205
Yeah.
and some of the filler, probably microfibers, I
Yeah.
would say, which
Yeah.
you know pretty well, Tom, as well from
Well,
your visits to us.
Yeah, well, I do, and I've got it in my workshop now because I use it for all sorts of jobs like this.
But I think that's fundamental to the assembly, isn't it? The construction assembly
Absolutely.
of that kind of process.
Yeah, it allows us to form really strong laminated parts out of using smaller, thinner timber sections,
Yep.
which are much stronger, and of course great water resistance as well. So all of these parts will be coated in epoxy as well as bonded together with them.
West System epoxy as a system is, you've got a construction epoxy mixed with fillers, you've got coating epoxy with specific hardener. You've got this multi-functioning product that will do everything on the boat.
Yeah. So all the parts in this boat are coated with epoxy and then pre-sanded. So that's the reason it looks like it does.
Is this the system that you used for Missile?
Yeah. So actually, what happened with Missile was when I got towards the end of the build with Missile, I had things in my head and thought there's a better way to do this, and that's what actually led me into creating this process.
I see.
So I did Missile the sort of old-fashioned way, and then modernised things based on what I'd learned from that build. Really.
Right, yeah. So this system, if somebody's buying a set of plans or something, basically they get the wherewithal to do this.
Yeah. They get all the drawings and they get all the outlines for the parts, so they can take them to a CNC shop and have their boat building kit cut for them. So they're straight into assembly.
You'll have gathered by now, this is all news to me. I'm completely staggered by it, really. It's amazing the progress that's been made and how this is helping traditional skills. I mean, how do people know about this? Is there any award system or anything like that for it? Have you won anything with any of this?
Yeah. Recently won 2 awards at the Henley Traditional Boat Festival.
At Henley?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So we won the Piston Trophy for Missile, the little gentleman's racer boat that I built.
Yeah.
And we won the Chaplin Trophy, which was for Best Unpowered Craft, which was for a little tideway dinghy that I restored.
Everywhere I'm looking, I can see cameras. And these are not rubbish cheap cameras, are they? This is good kit.
Yeah, so I run a YouTube channel as well. So I video quite a lot of what I do, a lot of the work that I do. And currently on the channel I'm doing a series on this boat to illustrate how it's built and to show how the plans work and things like that. But I also cover a lot of different topics as well. So we do all sorts of different things from vacuum bagging processes. So we show how to cold mould the bottom of a hull, where we'll lay down the planking and then we'll use a vacuum bag which is rolled out over the planking and sealed around the outside to create a clamping system effectively that will pull down the second and third layers of the cold moulding and consolidate the glue.
So rather than a series of clamps which must point load it, the vacuum bag just sucks the whole thing down.
Yeah.
That must be really strong.
It is, yeah. I mean, because you get a clamping force over the entire surface rather than if you use staples or clamps, you've got sort of a point loading.
Yeah.
Whereas a vacuum bag will pull the entire surface down, and also it removes all the air from within the glue, so you don't get voids in the glue line.
No, and it probably helps the glue penetrate any wood fibres as well that have to be
Absolutely.
penetrated.
Yeah, the vacuum will draw that through the wood fibres.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really good system. So we do things like that, and then I also do 3D scanning of boats, where we'll scan a hull and we'll use this device to record the shape and the measurements of all the boat, and then we can use that to reverse engineer things and to reproduce old designs if necessary.
Well, that's been a day, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I've learnt a great deal, honestly, from my perception of how you loft a boat with a loft floor and old guys with flat hats and pieces of chalk. Moving through to what you do now it's a revelation.
Yeah.
Really is. And also the use of the technology and the materials has just moved on so far.
Yeah.
I got some inkling about it works, but you've shown me a lot today, Dan, so thanks very much indeed. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And thanks, Dave, also for bringing me up here, keeping me off my own driving seat. It's absolutely grand.
Oh, I'll tell you what, you remember I said I had a surprise for you?
Yeah, you did mention that, wasn't
Do you remember?
I do! I remember that.
With the battery box.
Yeah.
So
This is where the leads come out.
So I finished it off for you.
Well,
Look
that's
at that.
that's pretty. That's not. What do you think?
Pretty nice finish. Isn't it?
Well, that's probably better than I'd have ever got. Dave,
It's for you.
it's for me.
Yes.
That's just what I need. Thank you very much. That's brilliant.